Hey guys, Lone Wolf HBS here with another vlog. Today I'm gonna talk about Counter Personality, which I mentioned in my previous vlog I will actually do. Today I'm gonna talk about the story that I planned for Counter Personality chapter 6 all the way to chapter 10. At least the one I planned before I decided to put the story on hold. I won't be animating chapter 6 all the way to 10, although there might be an exception, so if you want to hear about that, you stick around for a while. I might make comics in the future, but that one is not a confirmation, so yeah. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I feel like the story needs some closure of some sort, since the story is sort of left hanging at chapter 5. So yeah, if you want to hear, just sit back and listen. Before I talk about chapter 6, I want to point out a particular comic that I made on DeviantArt. I made this comic about a year ago. I don't think it's finished, but it is supposed to bridge chapter 5 and chapter 6, along with explaining and expanding on some of the short videos. So I'll put the link in the description and the comics for those who are interested. But I still strongly recommend for you all to actually read it if you actually want to know what's going on, because chapter 6 onwards will involve a fourth group called Legion, and Legion is quite an unusual bunch. So yeah, I strongly suggest you guys check it out. So anyway, I think you all know how chapter 5 ended. The red and blue team attempted to assassinate their own medic, which utterly failed, resulting in the red female scout being captured, although it was due to the blue soldier leaving her behind. Chapter 6 starts in Hydro, which is own territory. The red and blue team, which is led by the blue soldier, decides to mount a rescue operation. Now the reason why the blue soldier left her there is because he assumed that the own team will actually kill her, which results in her respawning back at base, but that didn't happen, which caused the blue spy to call him an idiot. They decided to mount a rescue operation. There was a massive battle scene, and the own team was caught completely unprepared for it because they thought nobody knew about Hydro. During the chaos, the red female scout was left sort of alone, and the own medic specifically ordered all of his own team members to actually not lay a finger on her. This is something that the old scout doesn't agree with. He really hates the red female scout because of, well, his past. I think you guys know that he used to be on red team, but it seems like no matter what he does, he gets almost no credit for it. The red female scout gets most of it, so the jealousy sort of overtaken him, so he decides to, well, take matters into his own hands. He took one of the medics' medigun and used it to actually torture her. Now this act was witnessed by the own female scout, who actually tried to stop him, and it escalated into a brawl. And eventually the own medic came back and switched off the medigun himself, and well, he lectured the own scout for disobeying an order, and he eventually punished him by sending him away. Although temporarily, of course, he is still technically part of the team. However, this torturing session made the own female scout realize that the red female scout cannot stay there. On top of attracting the attention of the red and blue team, she feels that the presence of the female scout will just cause issues within the own team, because some of them have issues with her, particularly the own scout. So she decides to free the red female scout. Yes, free her. This doesn't mean she turned traitor, she just believed this is actually the best decision for the team. And she tried to sneak the red female scout out of base and eventually tries to escape with her on a truck. The own medic saw her doing it but chose not to do anything about it. However, the medic was not the only one who noticed. The own Demo Knight also took notice of the action, and the comic has already shown that the own Demo Knight is almost completely possessed by Legion, which is the fourth group. Legion, in possession of the Demo Knight, actually attempted to kill the own female scout and the red female scout, but they were not successful, and the two girls managed to escape by truck. However, the Legion warned them that it's not over, and they followed through with the threat not too long later. While the two girls were on the street with their own female scout driving the truck crashed on a tree when she tried to swerve away from a demo man that she saw on the streets, a red demo man. It is the same red demo man that sometimes shows up as the leader of Legion. And when she realized that she is actually in danger, she tries to fight back, but the red demo man managed to defeat her and, well, spirit her away. This left the red female scout behind, but fortunately for her, she was found by the red and blue team, who were forced to retreat when the own team managed to fight them back. And she was, well, rescued, but you can expect how she reacted when she saw the blue soldier. Not happy. Chapter 6 ends with revealing that the own female scout was taken to an unknown spot, where she was spoken to by the Legion. the Legion actually decides to kidnap her because they want to possess her the same way that they tried with the Demo Knight. But while the Demo Knight is fully welcoming of the possession, she is not, so they try to force it upon her. Now, the ending for chapter 6 also revealed who Legion really is. Now, Legion is actually the name of the islander that they found on the island in one of the short videos. It is actually not a group, it is just one single islander that for some reason has grown smart and was able to project all these illusions of mercenaries wherever it wants. And just by holding the islander causes you to actually be possessed. So yeah, for how the islander end up that way, that's chapter 7. Now the islander chose to reveal his origins to the own female scout while she was captured. The islander used to belong to a demo man who died in combat but failed to respawn, which is, well, I guess, a flaw of the old respawn system. The islander was obtained by Marasmus, which is Soldier's wizard roommate, and Marasmus wanted to use the islander to somehow kill Soldier permanently, since if he dies he will likely respawn. So he figured he should try and somehow find a way for the Soldier's spirit to actually be sucked in by the islander. Because of that, he sort of removed any magical barriers on the sword that ensures that a lot of spirits can go in. He backfired big time. Not only did it not work on the living, which he thought he would do to the soldier, instead it actually absorbs any spirits that lingered nearby. So when he decides to sell the sword back to a demo man to give it a test, it starts to absorb all the spirits of all the mercenaries that was attempting to respawn, which ensured that none of the mercs actually came back whenever the demo man killed someone. And eventually, when the demo man himself was killed, his spirit was sucked by the islander too. And eventually the islander got smart enough to actually think, because of all the spirits that he sucked in, and he decides to call himself Legion, which should be an obvious reference. So Marasmus decided that the sword is not only a failure, but too dangerous to be left around, so he decides to spirit the sword away onto an island. The own team discovered about the presence of this sword by a grey man, and they figured they wanted to use the sword as their own personal weapon because of how powerful it is. I mean, it can kill a mercenary permanently, preventing them from respawning. The problem, of course, is them not being aware that the sword is actually sentient, and it shows when he decides to possess the demo knight on own team. Now they wanted to do the same thing to their own female scout, and their ultimate goal is to actually absorb as many spirits as possible. However, the reason why they are quite aggressive this time, unlike before, is because during the own versus red versus and blue war, the own medic and the own engineer, now on their own and not really restricted by their contracts, they decide to improve the respawn system, so now there's virtually no possibility for failures or respawning on their side. The islander was not happy with that, because that means it cannot absorb spirits. So Legion, the islander, decides to actually try and forcefully absorb spirits. And he wanted to possess the own female scout because they figured nobody would suspect that the female scout would be easily corrupted. But before they had the chance to do that, the red female sniper, the same one from the shorts and the same one from the comics, was actually nearby listening to the whole thing and managed to rescue the own female scout a second time, by the way. Oh wait, no, the third time. The short video, the comics, are now in chapter 7. And the red female sniper, as if you guys seen the comic, she is actually friendly with the own team, so she brought the own female scout back and explained the whole situation to the own medic. And this caused the own medic to actually be legit scared, because Legion sounds like a serious threat. If they are able to actually kill mercenaries and prevent them from respawning, the improvements to the respawn system would literally mean nothing. So what did they do? They formed a temporary truce with the red and blue team, and with the own medic speaking with the red female scout. And even though there were definitely tensions and there were definitely fighting, they ultimately managed to find where the islander is and, well, defeat it. However, they realized they can't destroy the islander, so all they could do was weaken it. And they actually got help from Erasmus to do that. However, despite the ending, the islander, or more accurately Legion, revealed that it is still around, and they chose to watch instead of interfere in the war now. So the rest, from chapter 8 onwards, it will be back to own team versus the red and blue team. So, and that's the end of chapter 7. Now, chapter 8 is really the one which I really wanted to talk about, because believe it or not, I actually attempted to animate chapter 8 last year, I think. Chapter 8 is far more lighthearted compared to chapter 7 due to the lack of Legion and the lack of drama. This chapter 8 is really just full-on comedy. Now, chapter 8 is back to the own versus red-blue war. It takes place in a wrestling arena, and it was a long time after Legion was dealt with. The own team, along with the red and blue team, they realized they can't really settle their matters with both teams constantly respawning, so they decide to settle things in a bit more of a less violent way without killing. So they decide to agree to a wrestling match, and they put the map of, I don't remember the name, Sawmill. Then it has a moving saw in it. Anyway, they will make 2 members of each team, 2 from own and 2 from, well, the combined groups of red and blue, to wrestle each other, and the winner will get to keep the map. And of course, whether or not they choose to follow through with the agreement is up to them. Now, I did render a bit of what I did for chapter 8, so here's a preview.
Let's go! Get bloody going!
Come on, I don't have all day.
Unfreaking touchable!
Beep, 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 boop, bleep, bloop, blarpa, barp, beep, a boop, beep, beep, boop, blarpa, barp.
Oh, please. Oh, hey! You knuckleheads ain't even worth the effort.
You ladies should have brought some menfolk with you.
Stop laughing at him! Bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop, beep, boop, blarpa, barp, beep, a boop, beep, beep, boop, blarpa, barp. You have dishonored this entire unit. Beep, a boop, maggot. Beep, beep, boop. Beep, a boop. Beep, beep. That was rubbish. Beep, beep. Son of a
What the hell is that?
Beep, beep.
You suck!
Now, despite what the starting implies, actually, the own team actually won that match. The own team, as a result, is allowed to actually keep control of that map because originally it was controlled by them, and the red and blue team must leave. But own Scout chose not to honor the deal, troublemaker that he is, So what did he do? He pulled out a scatter gun, shoots at a nearby blue member, and full-on combat happens. And well, chapter 8 ends like that, with both sides straight up killing each other again, back to usual business. And now we are on chapter 9. Chapter 9 focused on the blue soldier. Yes, the one who's a jerk, the one who indirectly started this whole mess to begin with. Chapter 9 happens sometime after during the own war, and the blue soldiers sort of fall to depression because they haven't exactly been making any progress, and he himself hasn't exactly been a productive member of the group. So he starts to take a much less active role in combat. He just wallows in one corner, and it was revealed much later is because he blames himself for the whole deal, because unlike most soldiers, he doesn't like to use rocket launchers. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but he seems to stick to his shotgun the whole time. He never ever uses a rocket launcher. The reason for this is because back when the old medic used to be a part of the blue team, he and the medic used to be very close friends. But slowly over time, as the blue team suffered losses after losses, he sort of became more jaded, much more angrier. And eventually things got far worse when he fought with a red soldier and a rocket hit him straight in the face. And he did this to actually protect the medic from the soldier. The rocket hit him in the face, he was knocked out. The medic decides to actually focus on healing him while the red soldier was reloading. Eventually the blue soldier was able to wake up and fight back, but when he tries to pick up his rocket launcher, he couldn't do it anymore. That rocket strike to the face sort of traumatized him. He no longer wishes to actually be near a rocket launcher, so he sticks to using a shotgun ever since. And it was one of the reasons why he sort of loses effectiveness in combat. He uses nothing but a shotgun, so his effectiveness in the battlefield is not exactly 100%, as you guys probably know. So he sort of blames himself, but strangely, at one point, an illusion created by Legion actually approached him and tries to motivate him. First by actually creating an illusion of the red soldier that actually traumatized him in the first place, and eventually goading the blue soldier into actually attacking him. And eventually the blue soldier was so pissed off, he picked up a rocket launcher and straight up shot at the illusion. When he realized what he just did, he suddenly realized he's not actually scared of the rocket launcher anymore. Legion actually never explained why they decided to actually help out the blue soldier. But after a while, the soldier was able to get more into the battlefield and eventually starts to use the different types of rocket launcher that's available to him. So chapter 9 ends with the blue soldier actually becoming a lot less of a dick, becoming a bit more nicer, and actually leading the red and blue team a lot more often, alongside the red female scout, the red medic, basically the leaders of the red and blue resistance. Legion continues to watch over from afar, and the old medic, who notices his change in behavior, was pleasantly surprised, and it is to the point that the old medic actually decides to actually show respect whenever they actually meet on the battlefield, despite how their relationship turns out when they used to be on the same team. So that's chapter 9. And finally chapter 10, which is the ending for the series and sort of the end of the red and blue versus own war. Now chapter 10 takes place near the end of the war, and of course sometime after chapter 9. The own medic, actually everyone on the own team alongside everyone on the red and blue team, are sort of sick of fighting, as they realize just like the red versus blue war is pretty much a stalemate, simply because of the respawn system. Despite the efforts of the own medic and the own engineer to improve the respawn system on their side, in the end the stalemate is just continuing. This was when they realized that perhaps Legion actually knows something, because Legion can actually prevent people from respawning. So what did they do? They went to where they actually last banished the Legion Islander, and they tried to speak to it, and they actually asked if in return for many spirits, if the Legion could actually help either side end the war. Now the Legion actually provided a suggestion which is a bit disturbing for some of the mercenaries, but they decided to listen anyway. Legion offered to actually possess some of the soldiers on both sides. Mercenaries, I mean, not soldiers. The possession gives the mercenaries the power to actually kill someone and ensure they never respawn, simply because, well, Legion will absorb the soul. In addition, the Legion helped the engineers on both sides to actually craft some kind of powerful nuclear grenade that is capable of, well, creating a nuclear explosion, but anyone caught in it will all be absorbed by Legion. And in return for all the spirits that the Legion Islander received from such a plan, the Legion Islander agrees to leave all the mercenaries alone. And in the end, the Legion got more spirits than he actually needed, so it's actually a deal that all parties can choose to agree on. So sometime later, the group from both sides, Red and Blue and their own team, they prepare for this one big final battle. The Legion choose to possess the Blue Soldier, the Blue Heavy, the Red Medic, and the one of the Red Scouts on the Red and Blue team. On their own team, they possess their own female scout. Yes, that one, the one they tried to possess, the one they tried to forcefully possess. They also repossess their own Demo Knight, who is quite willing to bring them back in. They also possess their own spy and their own sniper. The battle is this humongous group of mercenaries just fighting each other. And on both sides, they have that gigantic nuke that they will actually try to bring to the other side. And when the nuke explodes, well, all the mercenaries caught in it will actually die, and die for good. All characters that show up throughout the series will participate in this battle, including the Red Female Sniper and the Red Female Medic that shows up in some of the shots. The battle was sort of a stalemate because despite the possessions, majority of the kills were still done by the non-possessed mercs. But eventually the Red Female Scout was able to find an opening, and she has the nuke with her. She fought her way into Hydro, which is the own base, and eventually she fight through the own scout, the own female scout. Yes, the own female scout was she's possessed, so she was able to avoid death right there. And she eventually fought with the own medic, which resulted in a one-on-one fight. And eventually both of them ran out of ammo and they fight in melee. During the battle, the own female scout was losing. Now the own medic could have finished her off, but he chose not to because he was really not happy with how his friendship with the Red Female Scout ended up. So instead of finishing her off, he decides to detonate the nuke himself. In other words, commit suicide. So while he lays there resigned to his fate, he lets the own female scout crawl away. As the bomb was about to detonate, the rest of the own leaders, along with the female scout who was no longer possessed due to her earlier death, they come together and they decide to mourn that their team's lost. And when the nuke finally explodes, own team is completely wiped out. Unfortunately, the red female scout was too injured to actually escape the blast, so she was caught in it too and believed to have died. So the Red and Blue team also suffered permanent casualties from the explosion. When Legion got what they wanted, they unpossessed all the mercenaries that they did, and the Blue Soldier, well, he knows that the Red Female Scout is in there and he was shocked by her sacrifice. So the Own and Red vs Blue war ends with the Own team not only losing but completely wiped out, and the Red and Blue team, well, they stand as the survivors. Chapter 10 ends with the Red and Blue survivors to actually be rewarded as heroes by the administrator, Miss Pauline, I think that's their names. But despite all their efforts to actually move on, they couldn't look past the horrors of the war. So the Red and Blue team eventually disbanded. And what came after was Man vs Machine. Anyway, notice that I mentioned Greyman in chapter 6 or 7. The reason for Greyman helping the Own team is because he was in the middle of making the robot prototypes, the same robots that you see in Man vs Machine. In return for helping the Own team in their war, the Own members will actually make recordings of their mercenaries fighting in combat, and they will give these recordings to Greyman. Greyman will use the recordings to program his robots, which means slowly over time as the war progressed, the robots that the Own team has slowly became smarter and start to behave more like the mercenaries they are being based on. And with the Own war finally over, Greyman got all he needed to actually create the robot army, which is how the story led to Man vs Machine. So yeah, I considered the possibility that the Own team actually were prepared for the possibility of them losing the war. So what did they do? All the Own leaders, Medic, Fan Scout, well, Spy, they actually prepared Dead Ringers. And when the nuke exploded, Yep, they survived. But I'm not sure, they survived the explosion, they were not absorbed, but they wanted to keep the illusion that their own team was destroyed, so they went back to their old team and they decided to blend back in. Which means chances are they also participated in the Man vs Machine. But this stinger of sorts, I'm not sure if I want to implement it, assuming I even go along and make the comic. But we'll see. But anyway, that's about it for chapter 10. As again, the own team lost the war, the red and blue won, which should be a given. The own team was the antagonist right from the beginning. Otherwise, that's about it for Got the Personality. I hope you guys actually like the story that I gave out. If you guys have any opinions or anything else to say, just comment. And if you guys like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next vlog. In the next vlog, I will likely talk about wildlife, so if you guys are interested, see you next time.